I'll go ahead and start the recording. So for the agenda today, we're going to go over Tim's proposal and then discuss the release and branching strategies and sprints that we're going to use for the adapter work based upon our agreement on what stories will be within scope. So in taking a look at the items that are highlighted in red, the themes I saw were evaluation and integration of about 2.4 snapshot 2, I believe, which we are expecting a drop on August 11th. And then addition of OMCI support, Gemport ID support, and a note around process flows that had been broken into 2 stories. So I wanted to have a quick chat on what sprints those were in. And then revisit VOL 3111. I see that it's in sprint 4. I think we missed it in the initial planning session. It's focused on redfish. And I guess the question I have is this really a must? So that's kind of the agenda item we have for today. So we can take a look through the stories that are added. But note this is kind of the general theme I had seen based upon the red items. And I have Jira up so we can take a look at the stories in greater depth if we need to. So the addition that Tim is proposing is VOL 300, about 2.4 release evaluation. And the request was to have it added in sprint 4. 2.4 driver to use Val OMCI packet proxy to Maple. That was requested to be added into sprint 4. And then Val Maple 2.4.3.export release to Edgecore, and that was requested to be added into sprint 4.
One question: how can you tell those 2 stories was added?
They're not, and this is we're being requested to add them to sprint 4. So I think so what we're evaluating is all the red items are currently not in the sprints. And so what's being requested is that, do we consider them basic functionality and needed for the POC? And if so, would we put them into those sprints? And part of this is evaluating, right, are they required for basic functionality?
I guess the 300 release evaluation, probably that's the basis of everything, right?
Yes, yeah, and that was ongoing ever since we got the drop. We've been looking at that and doing experiments with it and all that stuff. So it was not shown in sprint 4, and the goal that Tim and I had on this was to have Jira actually reflect what's going on.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding. So is that story referring to the 811 drop or the snapshot you currently have?
Snapshot we currently have.
Okay, so not
there's a different story to track the work for the 811, but there will be ongoing release evaluation and any bug requests or anything we find that's not working that goes back to Broadcom. But I don't know how this would want to be tracked. I think it's a thing that will probably just stay open and ongoing, but it is a thing that will require work and effort on.
So I guess the question I have is, if we haven't done the release evaluation and closed that out, how do we know the scope of the work that is still left to be done?
We don't. It's open-ended because it's new. We have because we don't know. We haven't employed all of the features that are coming in Val 2.4, and that's brand new code from Broadcom that's in there, and so it's an open-ended task. Now we could leave it out and not track it in Jira if that makes it easier, but it's still pertinent information that needs to be.
It's consuming resources, so I would prefer that we track it, even if we just have a tracking story and close them out on each sprint, just because it does represent work.
Yeah, because I guess the question I have is it some, for each release, are we looking at it from the context of the features that we're doing and we're looking at what has changed in those features? So it's fairly scoped, or is it looking at the 2.4 snapshot and as a whole? And so it's just chipping away at this thing.
Yeah, because we're receiving we're receiving a third party snapshot release that isn't being tracked otherwise in JIRA. Broadcom's providing this release. We need to evaluate this release and understand how it works. So this particular case is, we took a look at we are taking a look at this first snapshot. We'll have to take a look at the second snapshot when it's available as well.
But one thing is, we are not implementing all the features in the 2.4, right? So because we made a request for Broadcom to adding a lot of PM and alarm related information on that, but we put that as a lower priority. So I would say the evaluation, the evaluation process need to be guided by the priority also.
Hey,
So
Sean, Sean, this is Shad. My understanding of this, are we talking about this snapshot that Broadcom is going to drop on this Friday?
No, this is the one that has already been received.
Okay. Because I think this snapshot, even the one that's coming in this Friday, there's a new one coming in this Friday. It's not just the new functionality that we have asked for. It's also a couple of bug fixes that I think that we really need.
Yes.
Right. It just kind of vague. What does it mean, evaluation? Does it mean it's a paper evaluation, or
what it exactly was, what was done with that release is that after the Edgecore had it all ported to the hardware, and we had some rounds trying to get the BAL CLI, the standalone CLI working. We had some rounds with that, and then it actually got there and stabilized. And then certain functions were tried to make sure that those BAL 2.4 features were actually in there. One was, ONU activation, which is, pretty important. So just to make sure that, the whole procedure works end to end with the standalone BAL CLI, that's just using Broadcom code, which will mirror what the adapter and the driver are going to do, under their control. So that was an example of a kind of thing that was in there.
So
one thing that's in,
if I might, this work is happening. It will continue to happen. It's a question of whether or not we track it in JIRA or not. It's not an option of doing it or not. It is being done.
I think what we're saying is it sounds like we should track it, but we should focus the work on functionality that we're integrating.
And that is already happening. Absolutely.
That's what's happening. Yep.
And I would say, in order to make this JIRA ticket useful, we should have, whatever has been evaluated should be reported back to the JIRA. So we should have a tracking log updates.
And one way you could actually handle this so that it's accounted for is added as investigation spikes for each of the functionality that you're focusing on. So for example, like the driver work you're doing, or if it's PM or alarms, it's the investigation spike to look at the BAL release to see what is supported or what has changed, right?
Well, one of the problems is Broadcom is delivering, a set of functionality that we've asked for that we're going to need for the entire project. Now, just taking one feature out of there that we need and evaluating that, and then getting back to Broadcom on an individual thing, and then maybe weeks and weeks later, we go and say, oh, there is another problem here. That's not good for Broadcom, because they, when software is released, they want to basically, the consumer of that wants to go through the whole thing and make sure the functionality is in there, and you know what they kind of don't want to have that being piecemealed out based on the progress of our work on what features we're doing. They would much rather have a wholesale report of, is the functionality in there that we promised? They gave an 18-page release notes on this, that here's all the functionality that they put in there. And so it's more efficient if it's done like that. And that's why, you know, that's how we've been doing it. Looked at the whole of the functionality that they've given as a whole, so we can say, yes, Broadcom is done. That's good enough for now. Or did we find a bug or something? And we have.
I got it.
That's kind of the rationale that I've been using.
Basically, this is basically evaluation of the release of the from Broadcom, and it probably at the same time the different people is doing the integration, but the feature need to be evaluated first. Okay.
Yes.
As I said, you know, I think this is a very valuable work, but I think that we need to have a list of the items to be evaluated and what's the result.
Right, and I would consider everything that they have in their release notes that they said they put into Val 2.4 were things that were, you know, were going to be needed, and we've gone through with that.
Have we asked Broadcom whether we are allowed to post their release note?
Yeah, Tim, this said the release notes were marked as NDA for VOLTHA community, and that was a question on what exactly does that mean. And we asked them about that, and Tim, you might have a response, but I was erring on the side of not posting that unless we had, you know, explicit permission, because it was watermarked as that. So.
Yeah, I think it's, I think I'll follow up with Broadcom before we get their definition of community and whether or not we can share those release notes.
Okay.
How we can share those release notes.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah.
Okay. No, I think.
Okay, so I'm trying to summarize some of this. So evaluation of the existing snapshot, that was VOL 300, and in my understanding is existing work. So I think the conclusion is we should go ahead and pull that into Sprint 4. Any issues with that? Okay, and then evaluation and integration of BAL 2.4 release on 811. I think that was 361, 299, and 384. So let's take a look at those next. So 361 is BAL Maple 2.4.3.x port release to Edgecore. This is being done by the Edgecore team. And then 299, and I think that's being proposed for Sprint 4. I assume this is starting on Friday then, since we won't get the drop until 11?
Well, the drop happens on Friday. There's got to be time after that. It just, when it drops doesn't mean all the stuff is there, so it'll just have to be tracked. But 299 is key to having a standalone open source component for the driver that goes in the Edgecore OLT that's you know, that interacts with BAL. So right now only proprietary builds can be made because it's monolithic, and they provide that piece to do that.
Yep. So for the work that Jason is doing, the reason why I noted the Friday date was this was expected for Sprint 4. Friday is 8/11, and then our sprint ends on the 14th. So realistically, do we see that in sprint 4?
It can start, all right. So it can start
Okay.
it would probably start in sprint 4, but delivered sprint 5. But it's not a critical. It's just realistically when it would happen. Edgecore has been, pretty fast on getting those ports done. So
we don't want to wait to sprint 5 to start that work. It should start as soon as possible. And if it spills into sprint 5, it spills into sprint 5.
Okay, and with it being 2 story points, I would expect if we actually get it on 8/11 that it would make it by the end of the sprint, if barring any issues, of course.
Barring issues. Yep.
So, Sean, are we okay with pulling this into sprint 4?
Yeah.
Okay. The next item is 299, which was, I think, is being slated for sprint 5, and so is the next one. So these two, I think, are dependent on the 361 work. So BAL 2.4, create BAL driver, which is what was recently discussed, and then adjust existing BAL API protobufs to match BAL 2.4.3.x changes.
Right, is what the 364 is. There will be data model changes that come with that. I don't expect it's massive changes, but there will have to be some revisiting of existing protobufs to make it work with the second snapshot. So that story was to capture that work, and it all delivers along with 299.
So what's the plan? So let's say let's say all the basic function. I'm just hypothetical. All the basic function already in today's snapshot, plus a few bug fix, will be in the new release. What I'm saying, you're saying maybe some data model will be changed. But if that doesn't affect the basic function, were you going to spend the time to integrate the new data model into the existing adapter? When I say existing, is what you already have, not the old one. The one you are working.
Current work in process. Yeah, I get it. In order to take the let's just call it, if it's BAL 2.4.3.6, which is one more, I don't know what the numbering will be. But if we take that, we have to take the data model changes in there. I don't expect those are major. They're around indications and alarms, probably things that we may not be using, but we don't know. And that's the thing, is we never get a preview of what is going to be in there. So it has to drop on 8/11, then we have to go over it and find out what the changes were. There'll probably be some release notes indicating that. We'll go right to those sections and do it. But as it's shown, it's not a high story point type of thing. It can well be done within sprint 5, and it gets us on to the BAL. I think that we will be on for the first functional driver.
Okay, so Sean, any issues with pulling this into sprint 5? Seems like it's work that will need to be done anyways.
Sprint 4, right?
Sprint 5.
Sprint 5. Okay.
Because we won't get the
Yeah.
Okay. OMCI. So I saw 2 stories related to OMCI. VOL 302. BAL 2.4 driver to use BAL OMCI packet proxy to Maple. This is being requested to pull into sprint 4.
Right, and my concern with that was, the progress on the project is up to that point already, is trying to get that OMCI proxy to work. And it was just totally appearing in the backlog, so it wasn't matching reality, as Suhas is really working on that particular function, trying to get the OMCI proxy to work, because that's the key to making the ONU adapters be able to send OMCI messages. So we wanted that to be, pulled back to Sprint 4 because it's being currently worked on. And it's a good thing there because there seems to be a problem with doing that. We've discovered a problem in there.
Yeah, and then that's also the 2.4 is about, right? So you already have the resource investigated on this one, and people are already working on it. It doesn't make any sense. We don't put it in. I think it was just missing to assign it to Sprint 4. So yeah, let's add it back in.
I think so as well.
So I guess a general question I have is this needed for the POC?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you don't have it, you don't activate. You don't talk to OpenUs. So it's got to be there. It's the most front functionality. Even Broadcom said this has to be in there, and that was the first feature they worked on for the Val 2.4.
We actually haven't talked about OpenU. Do we have a gap in terms of what is being supported there?
Yes, but let's hold that until after we get through the adapter discussion.
Let me add it to the list and then we'll. Okay, so people are ready and applied for this. Let's go ahead and add in. Okay, so we've decided to pull it into Sprint 4. Okay, the other item was 280. Send and receive OMCI messages through the adapter using Val APIs of the device.
That's also a fundamental.
Yeah, that's it, and it pairs with the 302. That was probably mostly the framework was already completed in there, and it should be in Sprint 4. And I think that was just another oversight. But that one together with the actually using that with Vol 302, shows the proxy functionality, OMCI proxy.
So it's already the work is stayed in progress. Let me see the previous one. It's also in progress or to do.
See, as much as being done in progress as possible, and it's a matter of marking things as actually completely done, because it can't be done until the code is delivered to the adapter is up on the up on the open core Garrett, but the driver side is a little bit touchy right now because we have to do it as proprietary until we get the Val 2.4 snapshot 2 that actually lets us execute the 299. So all of that stuff can be committed to the core driver GitHub that's going to hold the open source driver.
So this is why it's noting that it's blocked by 299?
It's not blocked. It's not blocked. We can do it on proprietary side is what I'm saying. But to mark it as done, it has to have 299.
Okay, that was what I was trying to point at.
Yeah.
And then you have a blocked by Vol 370.
Yeah, and that's tracking this problem that was discovered over the last day that Broadcom's involved in. We're not able to complete the proxy send and proxy receive. The proxy receive wasn't working as expected, but it's probably not a BAL problem. It's just a ordering problem. But anyway, it does represent a potential blocker if it stays too long, but it's only been in this state for about a day. But this is just accurately indicating what's
do we know? So is that requiring Broadcom to solve something, or just some mutual?
It's mostly support from Broadcom. They're going to be looking at code that we did for that and see if the sequence is right. It's working on the Broadcom side, and we just need to. There's a backlog of email I have this morning I have to go through, but it's not expected that it's an actual bug in Val. It's just an ordering, because you can't do the OMCI packets until the actual communication to the
okay, yeah,
is in place. So
See, yeah, we think it's a sequence issue, but we're in the midst of an investigation.
So does
I think, yeah, I think the sequencing of stuff is very important. So I think at least that was something Srisha was telling me when I first met her in person.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does Broadcom know the severity of this need to be resolved? Okay.
Yes, they're actively working.
And there's and the response has been very 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 good on that. They were right on it. So
and what
to be in
good.
Sprint 4?
It probably, we can put it in Sprint 4, probably going to wait until Sprint 5 to finish, right? I mean, the fix is this bug probably need to be fixed right now, right?
It's tied to 302, and if 302 is in Sprint 4, then this should be in Sprint 4.
But the 302 right now is still to do status. Is the work actually in progress, or is waiting for this guy? Okay.
Yeah, look back to the spreadsheet. It's marked in red. It should be in progress, but we didn't make any of these changes until we had this review.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right, Sean. That should be marked as in progress, because it actually is in progress.
So 302 should be in progress
and assigned. Yeah.
Assignee is to who?
And Suhas is shown in red. I think it's already assigned to Suhas.
I just have to go back to take a look at the spreadsheet. Okay.
Yeah, look on the spreadsheet. Anything as red has not been changed in Jira.
Okay.
Okay, but I think we're noting the actions that we'll take with each of these. Gem port ID was the next item. I saw a couple of stories around that was flagged.
So so we basically are just closing out on what's in Sprint 4, and we'll defer on Sprint 5? Or is that the next story? I'm sorry, it jumped.
So we've been evaluating each of the stories for which sprint they're in. So we've been tackling it more by topic rather than sprint.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and then
Tim, are you saying maybe, for example, like 273, it's listed? There's no reason we need to discuss it right now, right?
No. It's we're not no red. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's just that. Yeah. So you're going down to 303 now.
Yeah, I'm not going through the list top to bottom. I'm going by topics, because to me it comes down to, is that basic functionality or not?
I'm following.
Right.
Go ahead.
So the next item is gem port ID. I did not list the items, so we'll take a look. So it starts with 301, 303, and 304. So we had discussed previously the possibility of manual configuration. What I'm seeing here is that is not possible, so we'll need to add support for it.
Well, I don't. I don't know what the manual configuration means. I don't know if I was
fixed mapped. Fixed mapped.
Yes, right. But that's right. This is a different thing, though, from what gem port IDs are used by the ONU. This story specifically relates to the adapter's ability to set the gem port to whatever number it wants to have when it's creating a flow, because the Val 2.2, as it's stated in the story, was a limitation in VAL 2.2 that VAL picked the gem port ID sequentially and returned it, which is not suitable for a real application. So this was one of the new features that was brought into VAL 2.2. Is to allow
Exactly.
Right, it made an API actually work that did not work. Okay, it's one of the first discussions we ever had about
With Broadcom.
VAL.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so this thing is not related to what you were thinking about the manual configuration. So now I understand what you mean by manual configuration. I think Sean Missette, commented on. He just made a comment there that.
There's definitely a feature I would like to have, and then we mark as high, and I would always say yes, let's go forward with the Sprint 5, right? But do you have resource to tackle this issue?
I will say on that one, it's a matter of it's in the core framework of how the adapter makes the VAL API calls, and I think it will just come for free once we can set up the first gem port to even activate an ONU. So the story points might be a little high on that, but I didn't want to reduce that until we had feedback from our guys that are looking at that one.
So I think part of us evaluating this is, if I look at the story points, we're looking at a week, and a sprint, right, for the 3 stories. And so you're looking at essentially tying up 2 resources for a whole sprint.
If that is accurate, it might not be accurate. Those were probably estimates that that went in about 3 weeks ago. So and progress has gone. So why don't we take an action to get that refined better on 301 and 303 to find out if that's really accurate story points, or does that go down to a 1 or a 2?
And I think the other thing is I think Steve Crooks probably can look at this very quickly. He's not on the call. What I'm saying, we don't.
No,
yeah.
I'm here, Sean.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to assign this to you. Yeah. So I think maybe Reddit says you guys need to see whom you can get some help on these 3. I'm hoping it can be quickly.
I think we need to refine the story points and find out exactly what's involved in there. Is that really 2 weeks worth of work, or is it more like
1 day or 2
in a week? Yeah, a few days or something like that. It was mainly meant just to be a tracking to track against Broadcom VAL requests that we had in there. We can trace this back. We can trace these 2 issues back to bugs or things that we had to work around with VAL 2.2 and the POP 2. And that's why they're on the list, is we requested, changes for this. And one of them, I think it was the 303 was just, or maybe it was 301. There was a different one that was a patch that Broadcom did to 2.2 that just has to be verified. It's in 2.4 because we're going to rely on it. And I think it's the one about, it's actually 304 that had a workaround and there was a kind of a patch, but Broadcom stated that on that particular 304 issue, VOL 304, that VAL was capable of doing that. But we don't know yet because we haven't actually tried, and that's why that 304 is carrying high story points right now.
Wait, okay.
It's kind of unknown.
When can you do the assessment? Or right now, because it's in sprint 5, you're not
Right.
going to look at these 3 yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's not for the assessment to find out if story points are high on 301 and 303. I think we can do that here pretty quickly. But the 304, the one that has the 8 story points, which is really high, that almost, I think we have to revisit that after sprint 4 is complete, and there's some functionality that can actually set up the try to set up the flows to the ONU to see really what comes out of that, and that might even get lumped into the ONU bin as how does the how is the ONU set up.
Okay, so I know again. So I know the every team here probably once get into the end of I mean the sprint 5 is basically for the VOLTHA side it will be the integration part. So am I correct? So basically the VOLTHA is freezed, but the adapter is still moving forward into the sprint 5.
Yes.
Right, with sprint 5 right now is 2 weeks for this one. I definitely begging other people, other members, can take a look of this one. Because I think this will be beneficial for any team. So I think basically all the story move into the sprint 5. If that had not been assigned, please work with the Redis's and take a look at this.
So Sean, I guess the basic question I have is this functionality critical for basic functionality in the POC? Or is this a nice to have and we'll opportunistically do it in sprint 5?
It is. Maybe I'll ask Srisha, is this one also once this one established, it can work directly with the pong config, right? I know that
Hey, Sean, I'm sorry, I didn't follow the first part of the discussion. Would you please summarize the question for me?
Something about the Gemport allocation of the Gemport ID and Gemport port ID. Like if you look at the screen, VOLTHA 1, the Volt 301, 303, 304. In order to, again, I think those 3 will be important for this adapter to be able to work with the pong config, right?
So the Edgecore adapter,
yeah,
I guess it's more of a PAL limitation that needs Gemport IDs for a particular service to be sequential, or I mean, I'm trying to understand the limitation. So if you have a service using multiple Gemport, they all have to be sequential, or what exactly is the limitation?
No, what this particular issue is pertaining to is the BAL 2.2 had a problem when flows were created with the same ether type but different gem ports. The packet went to the gem port of the flow which was configured first, and that required a workaround, right? And so what this was basically a bug fix or a feature add to BAL to remove this restriction so that the gem port you can have multiple flows with the same ether type with different gem ports. So this is talking about a specific BAL behavior and not something I think that gets above the adapter. So there is a relationship at some point, but I don't think this is a kind of thing that this needs to be in here so that whatever the VOLTHA pawn management request, that it can be set up this way. But this was mostly a tracking issue to make sure that this restriction
I see.
So,
Okay. So as far as, just to answer Sean's question, then as long as the Edgecore adapter is able to cope with the fact that there could be a different gem port, I mean, for a different flow, for example, there are two flows, and if the difference is just in the p bits, and if the first flow uses, say, p bit 1 uses gem port 1, and p bit 2 uses gem port 2, as long as they can cope with that, I think they are okay to work with the design. If there's an issue for that, then I think we'll have to revisit it to see what needs to be done. Is the Broadcom hardware able to support multiple gem ports on the same? Are you able to support multiple? I think a gem port is a tunnel ID, which is a LIF, right? So you're able to support multiple LIFs and tunnel IDs for different p bits on the same VLAN. Are you able to do that?
that I am not. I'm not sure yet. If Amit's on, Amit might have some insight on that. What we ran into with the p-bit mapping, but I don't know that exactly for sure. But these, the stories that we had that Vol 301, 2, 3, and 1, 3, and 4 were pretty much making sure we remove all these restrictions so that any that Val could basically accept any of these requests. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Typically, we don't see a case where you'll use a different gem port just because it's different. Sorry. Go ahead, Amit. You had an answer for that?
No, so I was disconnected, so I didn't get the question exactly. So could you just repeat that, please?
What I think is, I think let's do it this way. Maybe on this one, let's discuss discuss if necessary. So right now, my concern is, I think that's also Yuan's concern, right? So on these three, do we have the resource to put it in the Sprint 5? So right now, so Redis says, you guys suggest to put it in the Sprint 5, and as a product owner, I think that's a good thing to do. But at the same time, are we dropping anything else? If we don't drop anything else, and then the community can get these three in and then work it out, I'm more than welcome to include them. Or shall we just leave it in here right now?
I think we should, I think we should leave it in Sprint 5 unassigned at the moment, as it is the lowest priority work in Sprint 5.
Yeah.
But I think we need to make the determination of if those slip, will we hold off the release? Right.
Right. I would say it, because these three are the new features. I mean, the feature added to remove the limitation on the Broadcom side. So on the Valve side, I think we define the basic feature is phase 2. The phase 2, doing phase 2, these three wasn't there before. So if we slip, I think it's okay, but we'd like to have that in Sprint phase 3, Sprint 5. So, but the again, if that's split, we basically have what we have in phase 3, in phase 2. Too many numbers.
I think you're accurate there, Sean. That's what would happen.
Okay,
And
so
It's our stretch.
okay, and as stretch functionality if it cannot be completed. Wait. Okay, is that an accurate statement? So we'll put into sprint 5 its lowest priority and its stretch functionality if it cannot be completed. We are no worse off than phase 2. Puck can live with that for the release.
Yeah, that's good.
Which means we will not wait. We will not push out the release date for this. Okay, the next item was process flows. So if I were to look at this, so there was a request to, actually it is, yes, request to put it into sprint 5.
Could we do a quick time check?
Yes, we're at 10:02.
Yes,
So,
and if I could just quickly, I'd like to jump to the bottom of the list very briefly and then go back to the process flows. So I think we need to discuss ONU.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Young Lee from TNW has joined the call. I'd like to welcome him. And if we could just divert the conversation to ONUs and ONU adapter for a few minutes on this call, I think it's quite timely.
So
and we're doing it because of attendance, right? Because we also have tomorrow where we're talking through use cases, testing, and integration. So this could be something that we talk through as a full kind of integration set of functionality. So we're going to run out of time. So we have to do one of two things. We're either going to defer the release branching strategies till tomorrow and maybe cover it as part of the latter part of tomorrow's meeting, or we push the ONU to tomorrow as part of kind of the broader integration picture.
Either way is fine. I think maybe since release branching seems like more the whole VOLTHA related, right? So I don't know whether, I think most of people attending VOLTHA TST probably attending here too. So doesn't matter to me, so it's the same.
Yeah, the ONU discussion is
but you
very
probably need more time.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 10 minutes. We have 9 minutes.
Yeah,
release
it
branching.
won't finish either.
Okay.
So I think what we do have time for is we can finish all the stories that will be in the next 2 sprints, and then based on that, figure out what needs to be done from a release standpoint and use the latter half of tomorrow for both of these, but maybe folding in the ONU discussion as part of the integration testing. Does that work? And
okay.
I missed the name, but I don't know if that person can be there tomorrow.
Young Lee, are you able to attend at the same time tomorrow?
Yes, I can.
Barely hear you.
Heard yes.
Yes,
I heard yes.
I think
That's all we need is yes.
I think he said, yes, I can.
Okay, so what I'll do is we'll defer this. And then what we'll do is cover this for latter half. And then let's just finish off this so that we understand the landscape of the features that we have to deal with. Is that okay? Okay, so I think we're down to just a few items. And so if we were to look at the process flows, right, we were looking at, if we go back up to here, we've got this one, Vol 252, which is currently in sprint 4.
is it 252?
Yep.
252. Okay. We said that we for this one we removed the IGMP and multicast as a stretch goal, right?
Yep. So Volt 252 is currently in sprint 4. I think the question is, are we going to get to it, and does it need to be in sprint 5? It looks like IGMP and multicast was pulled out into sprint 5, but I think we said that was out of plan, so it really should be not in sprint 5. So 252 was broken into 252 and 366.
Okay.
And 366 was added to sprint 5. But my understanding is that is out of scope. So we should be removing that from sprint 5.
Right.
And probably taking... Okay. And then 252 really should be in sprint 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the only other item was Vol 311, which was in device management and in sprint 4. Research Redfish to understand server data model and client implementation.
Yeah, the whole 248 epic, I think, with the device management, I think it's the second from the bottom on the Jira screen. That all gets deferred. That's not, doesn't. It seems like that all can be pushed to later.
So
would there be any documentation or something like that? How we can managing this Edgecore device? I mean,
yes, managing it in what you mean provisioning? I mean, getting it, crafting it into use. I think that seems like that has to be there. But
okay, so does Redfish come with the box itself, and then or Redfish just interface? We can talk to VOLTHA to managing it, or VOLTHA to managing this box, right?
Right. The Redfish would have to be, added in there and enhanced. There was certain functionality that needed to be exposed.
Like the control fan, control the volt.
Yeah.
All of that. Yeah.
All that.
I believe Edgecore is planning on including Redfish on with the software on the box, but we haven't done the framework to enable that.
Exactly. And those framework is not part of the adapter, or is this part of the adapter?
No, this is the other side. On Kim's diagram, everything that was on the right side is now all under that Epic 248, and so it's part of the adapter, but it's not associated with the traffic.
Data path, yeah.
Data path, yeah.
Okay, and then so the workaround just goes through the CLI through telnet into the SSH into the box stuff. I think that's fine. We can, as long as we have some documentation, our operation deal with that all the time.
So is there documentation, or is this a story that needs to be added as part of the release?
I don't know what Jason's here. Does the box come with some CLI commands or things like that?
Well, there's no, I mean, there's no formal management CLI like an OLT would have. It's it's a white box, right? But there are many commands, like we can give, commands through ONL, to control, controller set fans, look at, health of, power supplies, things like that. So,
okay.
and Edgecore has been providing that on an as needed.
Can we?
Basis.
Yes. So I think this effort probably can be separate from the Edgecore adapter, right? It's a hardware management itself, right? So, can we work directly with the okay, I think I'll contact the Edgecore for the documentation for the field trial, or whatever we do in the phase 3. I think let's separate them right now away from the VOLTHA, and then we'll bring that back in.
Yeah. Where it ties to VOLTHA is to get alarms, environment and equipment alarms, and configuration and stuff, up through VOLTHA, and that's just, I don't think that's needed for right now.
Yep.
To be deferred, like you said.
I believe this is where the CalSoft resources had initially been focusing their time, but Shad, feel free to reassign them to some critical path items if that's
Shad,
that's more
are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would that be okay if we, the device managing like a fan speed, all that kind of stuff, we don't worry about that right now.
I agree.
Let's get adapter working, and then maybe you can assign those CalSoft people to some of the Sprint 5 related stuff. I think that'll be a good use of their time.
That makes sense. I think Kim, if you can also help in sort of assigning tasks, because Radis's team is handling a lot of the stuff. So yeah,
right.
So between Kim and myself, we'll sort of sync up and we'll come up with some tasks to assign to them.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take Vol 311, which is researching redfish, and move it to the backlog.
Right, and then AT&T will collect some of the device operation related documentation from Edgecore directly.
Okay, yep, I've noted an action item for you to contact Edgecore. So what we'll do after this is it's 9 o'clock. I think we're done for the day, and then we have some additional agenda topics for tomorrow's meeting. I'll add it to the agenda for tomorrow. I'll go through and make the changes to JIRA that we've noted here.
Sean, can you forward any documentation related to that redfish control to the community?
If I get anything, or if anybody have something, and share with me directly. If you already have something, share with me too. That's fine. But I'll work with the Edgecore. Yes, I will forward it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's the plan, and then we'll meet again tomorrow to go through the rest of this.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.